We'll be back for more hot Oscar action very shortly, but here to talk about the most recent awards, I still have the delightful Linda Blair, and she's joined by one of the stars of the blockbusting Best Picture nominee, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Gimli, and Treebeard himself, Mr. John Rhys Davies. John, so lovely to have you here. Thank you. Linda. Let's talk about the Best Actor result. I'll start with you, John. What did you think of that?
I think it was a tricky year, actually. I thought Adrian, on margin, deserved it. It's a bit of a hammering, that film. But, yes. I still rather liked Michael's performance, you know. I know the quiet, un-American is not exactly the most fashionable thing at the right at the moment, but it was a superb performance. He looks so wonderful. I saw him last night, and he looks every bit as good without his makeup on as he does off, with it on.
I'm sure he'll be disappointed, but what struck me, and I don't know if you guys agree, it struck me that when Adrian's name was called out, I was surprised. He seemed surprised, but I was struck by what seemed to be such genuine delight from the other nominees in the category. They all seemed delighted for him. Now, either they genuinely were, or they are the actors that they claim to be. But I did seem, you know, it seemed genuine to me, certainly.
Yes, absolutely.
I think because many people thought, and Jack Nicholson thought he might win. I think a lot of people thought Daniel Day-Lewis would win. But everyone knew that Aiden gave such an extraordinary performance. So when he won, I think it was just that joy and surprise. Went, all right, that he won.
A lovely speech he made, a very popular speech it turned out. I think I might say that he's actually the youngest recipient of that award. He's the youngest Best Actor in a leading role, beating Richard Dreyfuss's previous record holding that. He's 29, Adrian Brody, so that's quite a remarkable achievement. We just saw Peter O'Toole, a very emotional moment.
Yes.
I felt traditionally that's an emotional moment. Last year we had Sidney Poitier bringing the house down with his. What did you think of that? Do you know Peter?
Well, I love Peter. I've worked with Peter a couple of times. He is magnificent. He's always been magnificent. There are good actors, and there are real stars. Peter is one of our real, authentic stars. And so is Catherine. Catherine Zeta-Jones is going to be one of the greats. I mean, that performance in Chicago is just incandescent. It's absolutely chisel perfect. It is just brilliant. Everything she does is right.
And not only that, she's Welsh, of course.
Well, she has got that going for her too. Yes, my love to all those people back at home.
Yeah.
Well, I think certainly in my entire life I've absolutely loved Peter O'Toole, and it was one of my dreams in my life to maybe have had the opportunity to work with him. Of course, I got to work with Richard Burton, and one of my favorite films was Beckett, where the two of them, of course, were together. So it was a delight. Of course, he almost did not come to receive his award because he feels he has several more years, but I'm so glad that he did. And we love him so very much, and it was a beautiful, beautiful speech.
Well, let's hope we do see him in more films. I mean, you know, this is obviously a good advertisement for him. He's up there, very able looking, and I'm sure that people will be thinking that way. Briefly, before we head back to the Kodak Theatre, John, what about your thoughts for those who worked with you on The Two Towers? How well they've been doing this evening?
Well, we were only up for a couple of things this time. I do hope the Academy doesn't sort of shoot itself in the foot and miss us out next year. I think there's a feeling that since our film is basically one film spread over 3 years, that next year will be our year.
I'm with you on that one. Let's hope so. I'm looking forward to it very much indeed. Can't wait to see the third one. Time to rejoin the audience now at the Kodak Theatre as the drama unfolds, and it has been a dramatic evening, I think you'll agree, for the 75th Academy Awards. Before we talk about Nicole winning, let me ask you about that moment there where we look back at some of the previous Oscar winners. What did you think of that?
Oh, glorious, isn't it?
Oh, great memories, wonderful women, and brilliant performances.
And great memories of wonderful women, I'm sure, for you.
Yes.
I found it kind of uninspiring, to be honest with you. I mean, it was, apart from, you know, being of interest to see what people look like now, I felt it lacked genuine emotion. I don't know whether it was the lousy music they played over the top there or the amount of time they dwelt on it.
Do you mean the 59 people? Oh, I thought you were talking about the other women who had won Best Actress.
Oh no, I mean now the people just we saw there, the people who came along to, you know, once again who had won awards in the past. Because I remember when the Oscars celebrated their 70th anniversary 5 years back, they did virtually the same thing with inevitably many of the same names and faces there, and it seemed to be a somewhat pointless exercise, to be frank. But
well, we've got to get through these hours uneventfully and non-controversially tonight.
Yeah. But it was not kind of what I'd hoped there. Let's talk about Nicole Kidman then, winning for Best Actress. Many years it's considered that the Best Actress nominees, it's kind of fairly easy to work out who's going to win in advance. This year, it seemed to me it was very difficult. I mean, it was fiercely kind of competed. You were happy with the result?
Actually, yes. I would not have recognized her unless she had been labeled Nicole Kidman in that film. I mean, she looked different. She behaved differently. She really did create a completely different personality. And there was a depth and a gravitas there that she doesn't actually normally have in real life. I thought it was a marvelous performance. Didn't much care for the film. I mean, a bit of a hammering, but then mine's essentially a Midwestern sensibility, I'm afraid.
I think you like a fair, don't you, John? We've established that. You like to be taken out of yourself.
That's right.
Elliot, were you surprised that she won? Were you?
No, I was very happy that she won. I felt that she deserved it, and I'm sure it was a very tight competition. And she really appears to be a wonderful person, and I think she's very deserving.
Yeah, it was a lovely speech she made, though, as well. I mean, that seemed very genuine, and to thank her mother and her daughter to have them both there was quite special as well, I felt.
When she's 80, she's going to be exactly like Dame Edna Everage. Do you remember at the BAFTAs? She gave the speech at the BAFTAs. I thought she sounded terribly like Dame Edna there.
It's interesting when people come and actually do turn up and collect the award, the emotions show through, and often when they've lost an accent, it does come back. So you do find that Catherine Zeta-Jones does tend to get more Welsh than we've come to expect her to be, and of course Nicole became slightly more Australian.
Yes.
There are some people who are under the impression that maybe the nose she wore in the film should have been nominated in its own right for Best Unanimated Feature. It certainly was, quite something. And earlier on, Elliot and I were talking about the last of the Lord of the Rings movies, and we're talking about Gollum. And here you have a performance which is remarkable, but of course is enhanced tremendously. Do you think that we're going to have to make a new category for this kind of filmmaking?
Well, I personally am just disappointed they didn't have best dwarf, But I have absolute sympathy for anyone who has to wear a prosthetic. Yes, and Gollum was almost a nominatable part, but it's almost between cartoon character and real character, isn't it? A real maybe as this technology advances, maybe we will have those categories.
It's interesting. And you loved the Two Towers, of course, Elliot, didn't you? You were telling me.
Oh, yeah, and that character, I thought it was cinematic history. But as far as the 59 past winners, I mean, you mustn't forget that we're all humans and we all age, and I think it's sort of shocking to see the changes in the people, such as Ernest Borgnine since 1955.
Well, it is shocking, but I wasn't saying that shouldn't be the case. I was just saying I couldn't quite understand why they'd played it out in that way. It didn't seem to me like they'd really created any kind of special tribute to them. It was like, line them up, let's have a look at them, off you go. Yes. I kind of was hoping for some sort of connection.
How else would you have done it?
I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have done it.
Okay.
Maybe that's why I'm sitting here not running the show, though. Probably.
I'll tell you a man I'd like to mention, J. Lee Thompson, great English director, lived most of his years, like I said. Lee had plays on in London.
We're just going to have to go back though live, but I mean, we will talk about J. Lee Thompson if we have a moment afterwards. Back now to the Kodak Theatre for the Academy Awards live. Sorry. Plenty to talk about there with my guests, John Rhys Davies and Linda Blair. Linda, what did you think of the Best Actress win for Nicole Kidman?
Oh, I thought it was so fantastic. Her face, I really think that she thought Renee was going to win. And her face legitimately said it all, the surprise. And when she got up on stage, she just, everything, the tears welled up, and she wasn't able to speak. So I think to witness that moment was very beautiful, it was very real, and I'm very pleased for her.
It was nice. John, looking at the acting awards this evening, noticeably most of the nominees, or many of them, have been around for quite a while. There was Kane, who's of course 70 now, Nicholson 65. I believe the average age was 55 or over. So I guess there's hope for us all yet, isn't there?
God, it's hope for me then. God, give me another 10 years, I'll be 55.
I think you've got years then. What have you made of the event itself this year, the whole ceremony?
I think it's Oscars. There's an uneven tone about the whole evening. There's a little bit of discomfort about the whole evening, and it should really be a great fun time. It's the time the town celebrates, and everyone puts on their monkey suits, and we all have fun and cheer for our friends and boo for those we hate. And there aren't that many we hate, really. It should be fun.
I've sensed there is a kind of genuine kind of community spirit there, though.
Yes.
There does seem to be a lot of them. And when you see Jack Nicholson sitting next to Nicolas Cage and seeming to get on very well, even though they're up against each other tonight, that does speak well of the group.
Acting is a competition when you're at drama school and when you leave. Very soon after, you discover actually it's the most collaborative of things, and you actually just love your friends for surviving as much as anything. So in the end, it doesn't really matter. matters to some studios, and if you're a Weinstein, it matters. But really, for the rest of us, I don't really think it matters that much. I mean, the nomination is the joy, I would have
The
thought.
big loser this evening, if we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about the movie, will have been Gangs of New York so far. Out of 8 of the 10 awards it's been nominated for so far, it's lost in every category. It hasn't won a single award yet. Are you surprised by that?
No, it's not a very good film. I love Martin Scorsese's work, but this is not a very good film. It's, in fact, an awful lot of the films this year are not really very good films, or they're technically very clever and bore the derriere off you. Most of them are just a bludgeoning, you know. There's not much fun and entertainment. I just like to plump my own little picture, Lord of the Rings, which, God knows, actually won the AOL Awards as the most popular picture.
So you're saying there's nothing wrong with The Hours that a Battle of Helm's Deep at the end couldn't have sorted out?
Well, if you like the lesbo, age thing, I mean, I suppose,
If you like the lesbo AIDS thing.
This is the film for you.
That's going to be my quote of the evening, John, and I thank you for that. You've enjoyed the night, though. I mean, for you, watching from here with us, and we thank you for being with us, it's been what you'd hope for an event this evening?
I am very pleased that the awards went off, that we have gone ahead and done them. It's wonderful to have you over here to be able to be discussing them. It is certainly not the arena that we're used to, which is just so full of joy, and it is hard. I think everybody is abiding by the rules. They're trying to keep their speeches short, and it's still a wonderful evening.
It's been a nice event. Well, the evening's moving speedily towards the final awards. We're going to rejoin the audience now inside the Kodak Theatre for the final act of the 75th Annual Academy Awards. Fantastic stuff there. The producer of Chicago appears to be Mr. Magoo.
That's right.
Remarkably, collecting the award there. Some interesting results this evening. What did you think overall, though, before we go to specifics?
Chicago was the film that I saw that I really most liked, apart from Lord of the Rings, of course. But
I think that it's great because Chicago did win a variety of awards, but at the same time it wasn't the sweep, and we had so many surprises, and that was genuinely wonderful.
You're right, it wasn't the sweep people expected. It won 6 out of 13 nominations there. The Two Towers got 2 out of a possible 9. The Pianist did very well. It picked up 3 out of the 7 nominations it had, and they were all, pretty impressive. I mean, 2 of the real biggies there. Absolutely. The biggest loser of the night, of course, has to be Gangs of New York. Nominated for 10, didn't win 1.
There's no losers.
There are no losers.
They just didn't win.
Losers is the word, I'm afraid, and yes, they are losers, and according to John, they deserve to lose.
Well, Gangs of New York it could be overrated, could be overpraised, to be honest. I didn't much care for it.
They're not the biggest non-winners in the history of the Academy Awards. That would be The Colour Purple and Turning Point, both which were nominated for 11, and none won all of those. But remarkable, I would have thought, sort of turnabout in the fortunes of that film there, which was doing not so well there. Right. Not so badly. Steve Martin as a host, it's his second time in the hot seat there. What did you thought? Brilliant.
Brilliant.
I think he did a fabulous job under very, very difficult evening, and I mean he had a couple dark remarks that weren't necessary for the evening, but I think overall he did a wonderful job.
Were you surprised there weren't more mentions to the situation in the Middle East?
Well, here's one. Just to hope that all our guys and girls who are over there and their families are under God's good care, and we're with you. That goes to our allies, the Americans and the Australians and all the other allies there as well. God bless you all.
Any word for the French? John, what are you doing?
And I think that we may be expected for a lot more people to have slipped in their political message. I think it's great that they didn't. And Steve closed it by saying, we are all thinking of you, and this show is for you. Yeah. It's for everybody. And of course, I think each and every one of us, even here tonight, whether we were laughing or commenting, however we were, our thoughts are with those overseas, and it is a difficult time, and we wish everybody peace. Yes. But the show must go on.
It was a slick show, certainly. I think, thanks to Steve Martin, it was a very funny show. There's no doubt about that. And maybe it wasn't quite as exciting, though, and quite as bold an event as perhaps last year, which I know overrun, but at least they seem to be trying new things and experimenting a little bit. So maybe next year they'll get the best of both worlds.
Oh, sure. They'll bump it up again next year, but I think they had to be reserved this year.
Yeah, they did. It was a fun evening, and it was made all the more fun by having you guys with me. So thanks to you, thanks to all the guests who joined us here for their selfless generosity in joining me in Los Angeles. Thanks to you for having the shameless self-indulgence to stay up all night in Britain. Goodbye, good morning, and I'll see you back here next year. Thanks for watching.
Next year, of course, you're going to be talking about the number of awards won by Lord of the Rings.
If not, I'll hold you personally responsible.